everybody, it's Rebecca from the Thriving School Psychologist and Notes from the School Psychologist blog, and I'm here for another coffee chat with my good friend Gretchen Wegner, and we are here with our coffees to share some fabulous, exciting stuff for you all. So as school psychologists, I don't know about you guys, but I'm often in these meetings in which people are like, oh, this kid doesn't like to study, or they don't know how to study, and you're kind of left sometimes with not being able to provide simple, practical advice around that. And so then you just find really smart people who are able to do that and steal their language. No. Gretchen is really great, and I'm going to let her introduce herself and what she does. But these are going to be some really great sound bites and pearls that you can fold into student success meetings, pre-referral team meetings, IEP meetings, and meetings that you have with the student during the assessment process or afterwards to educate them about how their brain works and how they can study smarter and not harder. So with that, I will put my coffee down so I can have my full attention.
Can I give you my coffee too, since I will be talking?
That's the coffee. Now here's the chat. Go, Gretchen.
And just to add before I introduce myself that also these can be shared with teachers and also with parents. This little nugget I'm going to teach you today. So my name is Gretchen Wegner, and I am an academic life coach working with students on time management, organization, and study skills. That's how I got started. But I also now train educators of all kinds in what I call the art of inspiring students to study strategically. Right. Strategically is a very important word there. And I also train folks how to start their academic life coaching businesses if they are wanting to transfer out of the school setting and into a private practice. That is very doable for educators. So in all of that, I have discovered my special sauce, the thing that I think I do better than anybody else in the world, and that is take all of this brain science, and there's so much of it, and it's coming at us faster and faster and faster as neuroscience really becomes part of our cultural conversation. And I've been able to take all of that and turn it into these small little, what I call mini lectures that any educators can give to students in hopefully 5 minutes or less to explain what's happening in the brain and to help them take action. And I hope to share one of those with you all in this little coffee time.
I love it. So because we like to really keep it practical here at the Thriving School Psychologist Collective, I'm going to have you launch into, maybe you can just think of 3 things that school psychologists could use in consultation with students, parents, and teachers around how students' brains work and how that folds into studying.
Sure, yeah. And I'm going to use, sometimes I think it helps to get really specific. So the example where a student has come to you, or you've asked a student to come to you, and it's clear you're in their office, they're in your office, you don't have them for long, and it's clear that tests are just not going well for them. And so you need to have a conversation about studying with them. The first tip, so tip number 1 of 3, is to stop using the words study and review with your student.
Right. So it's just not specific enough. Studies for them could be I took out my papers and glanced at them. I studied.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And the word study is used by so many people in education. Parents will ask students, did you study? Did you study for that test? And teachers will say, make sure you study. And when a student answers, okay, I'll study, or yeah, Mom, I studied, what's actually being communicated? Nothing is being communicated. So if we challenge ourselves to stop using those words, it forces us to find more specific language that is more actionable for students.
That's a good tip. Yeah.
So that's tip number 1.
Okay, and so it's on the no list is study, and what was the other one? Review. Oh, I reviewed my stuff, but it could have been really passive. They opened it up and looked at it. Right,
because I used to say, just stop using the word study. And then what I noticed is sneaky educators or sneaky parents would say, okay, yeah, I didn't use the word study, and we said that they were going to review their notes.
Right.
But what does that mean, to review your notes? That actually doesn't really have a lot of specific action in it. So that's why I've started making both of those a no-no. And of course, I do use those words all the time myself, but the practice for a short amount of time of stopping saying them forces you to notice how often you're using them without communicating much. So that's tip number 1.
All right.
Tip number 2 is to equip yourself with some brain information if you don't have it. I know a lot of people have been following like the learning scientists these days. I don't know, do you know about them? So they're a podcast, and they're these wonderful neuroscientists, and they provide all this great information for students and teachers. But when you only have 5 minutes, how do you share that information with students? So the general tip is do equip yourself with some information about how the brain learns if you haven't done that. But the more specific tip is to learn how to teach your students what I like to call the study cycle. And I hope that this is being seen. I might be pushing you out of the camera here.
Yes, go ahead. I'm going to scoot out of this frame here so we can get this awesome. Yeah. Of course, she has a visual aid, everybody.
So in the study cycle, and I also hope it's not glaring, we'll have to see about that, but there are 3 steps. I've kind of condensed all the brain science I've learned into the 3 most important steps that students need to know. And I'm going to tell them to you quickly now, but if you want more of this, you'll have access to a free training about it that we'll give you at the end of this course. So this down here is the basket of knowledge and skills. This is everything a student needs to know to be successful on a test. And the first thing we have to do is get it into their brains, right? So like you got to learn it. That's the first step. And that I call this the encoding process because I like to use brain terminology with students, but you can also just call it teaching yourself. So that's step number 1. Step number 2, and well, actually, let me say most students stop right here. Like the review verb, that is an encoding verb. That's just looking at it again and looking at it again. So the second thing our brains must have if we're going to prepare well for tests is the process of retrieval. It's taking it out of your head and looking at it to see what do I know and what I don't know. And you're testing yourself. That means you're not looking at the answers. Too many students think they're testing themselves when they review their notes, but actually they're seeing the answers right in front of them and they're checking in with, does it feel like I know it? And if it feels like I know it, then I've tested myself, but not according to your brain. Right. So that's step number 2. When you test yourself, you find out if you know the information. And if you do, it can leave the study cycle for now. But if you don't, it goes back into the basket of knowledge and skills that you still need to learn. And then you have step 3, which is encoding again. But, and this is crucial, and this is where many educators slip up, you need to encode in a new way. You need to have lots of different encoding tools and lots of different review tools so that you're constantly finding a new and interesting way to keep your brain engaged. And I guess I forgot to say earlier that the name, yes, cozy in again, that the name of my whole program for students is called the Anti-Boring Approach to Powerful Studying, because we want to stop our studying from being boring. We want to stop boring our brains.
And I find, I don't know about you guys, and we'll try to hold this up, and I can probably post a picture of this too, or you can go to, when I give the resource at the end to look at this again. But I find that a lot of students, particularly high school students, when I say, what are your study strategies, they have the basket of knowledge. I need to learn these key terms, and I do Quizlet. And therefore I am done. And that's such a superficial recognition task. I mean, it's a little bit more active than just looking at it. But I like how this third piece kind of pulls it all together of now do it in a different way, make it more meaningful, make it your own, make it juicier, make it more elaborate, make it visual, whatever it is.
Exactly. And Quizlet is a wonderful retrieval tool if you're using it mindfully rather than mindlessly. And then if you do take the data you get from Quizlet that tells you just missed these 5 key terms like 10 times. And then you need to get yourself out of Quizlet and then find a new way to encode just those 10 terms. You don't have to do all of them. That's the gift of retrieval, just the stuff that you're struggling with.
That makes really a lot of sense, and I think that students, and look how it just took 2 minutes for her to explain that, so I could easily see as school psychologists when we're doing feedback with students about how they learn best, if there's an area of processing that's challenging for them, then we can kind of use that information to tailor what you're doing in step 3, or why step 2 is not sticking. And sometimes I think of it like, this is definitely not brain terminology, but like some ways that students learn is like Velcro. That just like really sticks really easily. And then some is like Teflon, just like slips off. And a lot of students, particularly students with learning differences, have like rote memory challenges.
Right.
And so they try to study in a way that's like Teflon. They just look at it and they're not making it their own or not doing step 3. So this is something that I think folds really nicely into when school psychologists have a lot of great information about how the student learns best and which ways are easier for the student to kind of fold that into the study cycle. So it'd be an educating process.
Yes.
And then I know go ahead, you wanted to pipe in on that?
Well, not pipe in on that, but that's just 2 tips, so we still have a third tip.
Let's get to it.
Because tip 1 was stop using study and review.
I probably used it like 6 times just now.
but it's okay. Okay, so it's okay to use those words if you're providing another structure or context to help students understand what those words mean. Okay. So, but for starters, stop using them. Secondly, equip yourself with a quick way to teach students brain information quickly, and the study cycle is one that you're free to teach. And then step number 3 here is to do a process that I call, in the courses that I teach to both educators and students, I call verbalizing. So practice finding specific and interesting verbs that track on the study cycle. So one of the verbs might be, tonight I'm going to upload all of the vocab to Quizlet. That would be an appropriate verb. And actually, that would be like making your retrieval tool. Then the next verb might be, for 10 minutes a day, I'm going to spend time on Quizlet with whatever their favorite Quizlet strategy is to see what I know and what I don't know. Then we're not done yet, right? Because then maybe on the 3rd day, we're going to spend time writing out the list of the things I don't know and drawing pictures of those vocabulary words, just as an example, to help encode it in a new way. So that's the verbalizing process, is getting very specific with actionable verbs that you can see all of that happening in your mind's eye when you're talking about them.
Right. I'm uploading, I'm writing, I'm, practicing, or whatever the word is. So that folds right into what to do with, and you can't, if you don't say study or review, you're replacing it with a verb that they can grab onto. What age do you think, just off the cuff here to put you on the spot, do you think students are able to kind of get the study cycle and being able to do that verb replacement? Yeah,
my online course for students, the anti-boring approach, has been designed for 5th or 6th grade and up, so I've definitely seen it work well from there. And there are a number of elementary school educators who come through my courses who are playing with, like, for them in the study cycle, they might not use the words encode or retrieve, but they might use the verbs, or not verbs, but like you're trying to get it in your brain, and then you're trying to get it out of your brain to see what it looks like, and then you're putting it in your brain again, but in a new way. Yeah. So I think it can go way younger.
Oh, this is very cool. Okay, so we only have 20 minutes, and we got to get back to our coffees. Okay, they're getting cold over here. So where can folks, school psychologists, go to learn more about the study cycle? And you had mentioned a free resource for them to check out. Can you share that?
Yes. So my website right now is GretchenWegner.com, and my last name is Wegner. That's a little tricky. So
we'll post that link.
So you can also just Google Gretchen and academic life coaching, and I'm the first thing that comes up. So you can do that. But specifically for the free study cycle course that I'm offering, you all will provide a link for it under this video, I think. And if for some reason you can't locate that link, at GretchenWegner.com, there's a place for free courses and free resources, and then you can sign up for it there.
Okay. And then as an extra added bonus, if you are in the Thriving School Psychologist Collective and course right now, or if you're an alumni of the Thriving School Psychologist, we're going to offer up a special discount on Gretchen's other courses. So expect me to reach out to you all. If you're in the Thriving School Psychologist Collective or an alumni of the program, you also can get some other resources and go deeper. And we're going to give you a coupon code to save some dollars on that. So there's something for everyone. You can go to GretchenWegner.com and check out the free resources. And then folks in the collective will get some additional information about how you can go deeper. So thank you so much for joining me on my very cozy coffee chat here. And thank you all for joining, and I look forward to hearing what you guys think. So feel free to comment below and share out with your friends so that we can all be better at educating our students and families and parents and teachers we work with on how to translate all the great things that we learn about students learning as school psychologists into something super practical. So thank you, Gretchen.
Yeah, you're welcome, and take care, everybody.
Bye, guys.